Our next speaker is, I'm assuming most of you have already heard of him. He's a philosopher, he's vegan, he specializes in environmental ethics and animal ethics. He has written extensively on these topics, including some philosophy for a better world. And something that I was personally impressed with, he wants to make Netherlands the first fully vegan nation in the world, which to me that sounds amazing. Yeah. So give a warm welcome to Floris.
I give a lot of speeches, so let's hope I have the right speech here. I have been in a funeral last few weeks ago, so I hope it's the right one. I'm also into atheism, but let's see if this. The groceries, but no, this is. So I'm a philosopher, and therefore I'm a vegan. So that's the point. I think there are not many philosophers around in the world, but now today is here a real philosopher. You cannot be a philosopher and not be a vegan. Then you're not a real philosopher.
Here.
Yeah. So because philosophy is like being specialized in critical thinking, rational thought, in ethics. That's like putting a ball in front of the goal. But you know, with the Dutch soccer team, even if you put the ball right in front, they still miss it a lot of times. And the same with philosophers. So, okay. So this is the field. I think it's indeed important, as Torben said, that as a vegan community, we also have this sense of a community. Because a lot of people who are really have strong feelings about something, like the pro-lifers that you meant, they have a really strong sense of community. Much more strong than the humanists at the other side who are pro-choice. So we are lacking this sense of community in a way. So I hope you feel that. Therefore, I think this is important, and I hope you also feel it a little bit. It's not just real activists, but you feel disconnected, and I hope you also feel it in the sense that you're not alone and you don't feel lonely, and we have to support each other. So feel free to shake hands and give hugs and compliment each other here. This is the time to do it, right here. Okay, so that's one. Okay. Torben asked me to give lessons, and I thought, what lessons? What for? Because we're all losers. I mean, vegan activism has been, let's say as the canon of the famous book for the emancipation of non-human animals is Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, 1975. Look at the number of animals in the animal holocaust since then. It has increased. It's funny, I can say the word here and there's no booing. So you can say that all the activism, everything that we have done, didn't help. Anything, it has only increased. So what activism helped? None. But, But
it could have increased more.
Yeah, no, that's a real optimist. that's a real optimist. Yes, and indeed the thing is, we hope we reach a tipping point. That's the thing with small. There can be tipping points, and that's interesting. There's a still story about. There's this book by, maybe you know, it's in the 18th century. Mary Wollstonecraft wrote a book, the rights for what is called the vindication of the rights of women. There was this idea in the Enlightenment that all men should have equal rights, and then said, why not women? And she wrote this book, and the vindication of the rights of women. And there was a critical review of this book, but it actually was a brilliant review, because this reviewer argued, but if you give rights to women, why not give rights to animals as well? And that was considered to be such a crazy thought, to give rights to animals, but of course it's a brilliant thought. It was outside of the Overton fenster of everyone. They couldn't understand it. So you can be brilliant and still, so he didn't know how brilliant this person himself was. But many people thought the crazy idea to give rights to women, and still think that, and the people thinking that are on the rise. Also in the Netherlands, not just in the United States. But I think, I was asked to give 3 lessons. So I am a theoretical activist in the sense that I write a lot and I give a lot of speeches, and but I don't go on the streets too often. There are sometimes, and I give a lot of talks. So I'm a. So what can you learn? Well, so I have 3 lessons for you. The first lesson is choose your battles, and that's especially also for new vegans. That's like a fallacy what many new vegans do. They start to convince their friends and their family. And that's usually not a good start. Start with people you don't know, so outside of your inner circle. I mean, your friends will notice anyway, and they will but it's just not. I mean, as you said, we are 90% irrational, so it's not worth it to also sacrifice your friends and your family as well to start with it. So you will encounter non-vegans all around you all day. So just don't. I mean, that's my advice. You don't do that. Don't try to actively convince your friends and your neighbors. Not direct friends. The second lesson is that there is this idea there are a lot of vegan strategies, and many people think that their strategy is the right strategy. And of course, that's fine for them. But then it's not very helpful in this very small community to say that doesn't work or that's stupid, I wouldn't do that. That's not helpful. I mean, if you don't want to be involved in activism and nude animal activism, for example, PETA, which is very effective because, I mean, you put 3 nude persons, usually women, in front of a store or anything, you get one picture, and you see that picture goes all over the media. I mean, you can get 100,000 people in the street, no media attention at all. So in that sense, I'm just saying that, but other people point out that that's not good form of activism. So I think don't be involved in that activism if you don't like it, but it's not a good strategy to keep fights in this small community. You know, that's very, cults have that they found, and political parties that they have factions. And of course it's good to have different opinions, but be in a room, learn from each other and respect each other and say, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Or fine, don't do it that way. And that's but there's this tendency, I noticed that people say, well, you shouldn't do it like that. Well, usually they say it to me when I give a lecture that, yeah, I see what you're doing, but don't use the Holocaust word. Okay, well, don't use it yourself. I'm not saying that you should use it, but I think it's not well, that's what would make my second lesson. The third lesson is that vegans are, especially vegan activists, have usually a lot of opinions not only about veganism. And that's fine, but if you then also want people to convince them of all the other opinions that you have, that's not really useful, right? So maybe if you talk about veganism, then talk about veganism. Okay, I already addressed that I'm an atheist, and I think that's also rational. But you know, if you're a Christian and you're a vegan, it's also a good starter, I would say. Yeah? So that's the thing that, and especially now, it's very polarized. Look, nowadays veganism is considered to be left-wing or extreme left-wing, and because that's usually what you find most people. But that's, of course, that's fine, but don't estrange people from other political opinions from that perspective. Well, and don't expect them to share your other values. And also be open to people who have different values, and then you can share in pragmatic ways your activism. Even you can disagree with people on other things, topics. And there is this tendency in this polarized world that you want to have people to be exactly like you, and also like not 1 millimeter apart. That could be very problematic. So those are my 3 lessons. Shall I repeat them? So choose your battles. It is a choir of activism, and embrace the choir of activism and choose your own voice in that. And the third one, don't estrange yourself from the allies and other vegans. So focus on vegan activism. Okay, those are my 3 lessons. Yes, you have a question.
I had a question just about your third lesson. If you define, veganism as wanting to minimize animal suffering,
Yes.
and we agree that humans are also animals, then doesn't that inherently also include wanting to minimize human suffering? So
Yes, but if you also expect people to wear PLO pro-Palestinian things, that's not helpful then, right?
well, that's a question on if you see those people as vegan or not. So if you only see vegan as not eating meat or dairy, then I think that's a different definition from veganism than the broader perspective, which in my opinion also includes human suffering.
Chip, you have an answer.
Yeah, I can interject. So veganism is about non-human animals. That's a very important distinction because the minute we include humans in them, we minimize the plight of the animals. The reality is for humans, regardless of what cause there are definitely people fighting out there for those causes. And there are definitely people who are suffering from those causes, and there are definitely people who have voices and are suffering, and they can voice their concerns. The difference is that with veganism, animals do not have voices. None of them can speak up and explain what they're going through, and there's not that many people speaking up for them. So I think veganism, while you can definitely see some relations to other social movements, it's a thing of its own, and it's strictly related to non-human animals.
Thank you. There are questions. Yeah, go ahead, Floris.
I would like to add to that. I think it's also important to look at the origin of the word veganism. So the Vegan Society is where it originated from. It was founded in 1944. And then it was defined in 1951 by Leslie Gross, one of the founding members of the Vegan Society, as the doctrine that man should no longer exploit animals. So that's quite clearly making a dichotomy between humans and animals, saying we should no longer treat them as commodities.
Okay, thanks. Esther, you have a vraag? Of, no, that's not okay. Okay, so thank you. I have just 2 remarks, and then you can shoot. So one of the things and I just want to say that probably you know that already. So I like the word carnism. So the opposite word of veganism is carnism. But usually people rank together vegetarians and vegans when you're in a restaurant, or sometimes you sit when you're in a large group, you'll sit on the table with exceptions, like people with gluten and the kosher people and everything, so all together. And those people also think that you're also one of them. But the strange thing, of course, if you have a diet, a special diet, you still probably eat human animals. The same for kosher and halal, and the same for vegetarians. So there's a thing. There's only 2 categories. There are people who are vegans, and there are people who are not vegans. I'd like to say there are 2 kinds of people. There are people who are vegans, and there are people who are not yet vegans. And that's the whole thing. If you see, that's also very inclusive. We are very inclusive, and we are helping other peoples to move to the path to veganism, and vegetarianism is a stepping stone. Because not many people jump from carnism to veganism. It's too large. Most people, maybe some exceptions, but most people take the stepping stones of reducing meat, vegetarianism, and then veganism. But many people also stick there, and I think that a good audience is to address the vegetarians, to say that that's a good starter with helping people to move on. And that's also the thing that, for myself, and I'm really ashamed to admit that I have been on the stepping stone for 20 years. In the thing, nobody kicked my ass saying that, what the hell, Floris, why are you standing there? Because I thought I was doing good, right? Most people are not vegetarian. I was vegetarian. But I know the reasons why. Rationally, I knew that I should be vegan, but no one kicked my ass. That's when I wrote the book, The Happy Vegan, and hoping that would have been that's a book that I wanted to have read when I was vegetarian myself. So that is like a speed up for vegetarians. That was the thing. Okay, so that's my 3 goals are. Okay, indeed, I'm striving for a vegan world, a plant-based world. So not just the Netherlands. But in the sense that, like, if you are in favor of women's rights, you're not thinking that the Netherlands should have women's rights, but all people, all women on the planet should have equal rights, and all gay people should have equal rights. So that's the sense. So it's also like, it's global. It's not just the Netherlands. In the sense, the second is I'd like indeed the Netherlands to be the first vegan. Completely vegan society in the Netherlands, and we are on a good path. I mean, the Netherlands have pioneered in many things for the first time in the world. We were the first country in 2001. There are things to be proud of in the Netherlands. 2001, in the city of Amsterdam, the first gay marriage ever in the world in the history of humankind. That's something to be proud of. And then, you know, we have the soft drugs here, we have the abortion law for laws, we have the liberal euthanasia. There are many things. And we have in 2006 the first political party ever speaking up for people who cannot speak up for themselves. And we have political voice of the voiceless, the party of the animals, and they were laughed at. And now, you know, they're not growing exponentially, but they're not being laughed at anymore, and there are other countries in the world. So if there would be a vegan country in the world, it could be the Netherlands. But I also speak a lot in Belgium, so I'd like to compete with them. So I said, so let's make it into a competition. Maybe Luxembourg will win in the end, but then we'll see. And then the last one, I'm really think that a lot of universities are really bragging with this word sustainability. Well, actually, everyone is bragging with the word sustainability. And usually, when anyone says that he or she cares for sustainable development or sustainability, I say, okay, so you're vegan. So that's like the first step. I mean, that's if you don't dare to use the word sustainable if you're not a vegan. So, and the mission statement of Utrecht University was guiding for a sustainable world or something like that. So I wrote to the board, okay, so you want to make this a vegan university. Then they changed the slogan. So they changed the slogan. They not have sustainability in their slogan anymore. Well, at least that's a little bit honest. But I think, okay, look, and it's very important to have a university, so make it into a competition with your institution. If you are the first complete vegan university in Europe, then you have the scoop. If you're second, so that's why I work at Utrecht University, so make Utrecht University the first vegan university in the world, because we care for sustainable development. I also want, and I'm doing what I said that I shouldn't do, to link things together, but I think that Utrecht University should also be the first no-fly university in the world for sustainability. And then you said that, Torben, that of course it means that the catering at university is fully vegan, but I also think that indeed that the community then becomes vegan, right? That it's not done to go with leather shoes and a leather jacket to Utrecht University. So it's good to make an institution a fully vegan university, and I'm glad that there's new initiatives. And how do we do it? Yeah, well, everything you can, and do it together. And I hope you still have a little bit of the feeling of holding hands together. Thank you very much. I think there are a few minutes, 4 minutes 27.
Any questions?
Do you help with the questions? Or
I can help you with the question. Please ask your question.
I was wondering, you said when you're vegan and you recently became vegan?
No, 10 years ago. But before that, I was 20 years a vegetarian, yes.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, like with the family and the friends, that in the beginning maybe that's not so good of an idea. But I was thinking, like, how do you think about later on when you have been vegan for a while and there are always the same reasons why they're not joining you, even though you're not going into a discussion, but at some point you get a bit bored of hearing the same things all the time, and I'm thinking, first of all, if you have some advice in regards to that, and second of all, with colleagues, how you think about that.
Oh, with colleagues, it's like if I have a big V tattooed on my face. When I go into the canteen and have lunch with them, as soon as I sit, they start talking about, usually I don't eat so much meat, and or it's very seldom that I use cheese. So they start to talk, I'm not, that's not the place for discussion, but they feel uncomfortable when I am around, even by just the presence. So, so I hope I like that, of course. But I don't have to say it. That's the whole thing. So that's so yeah. They will notice. I mean, also there's this joke about vegans. How do you know if someone is vegan? Don't worry, they tell you. But it's even worse. Don't worry, because you'll see it from them. Yeah, about friends. Yeah, I given up on some of my friends, in the sense like I know I'm not going to convince them, but usually, I pick where we go to the restaurant, which restaurant, we invite them to my house, and then it's pragmatically solved. But the thing is that you balance, do I want to lose a friendship over this point or not? And I think you should also be friends with people who are very different from you in many aspects. So I have some fundamentalist vegan persons in my surroundings. You can be a vegan fundamentalist, and the vegan fundamentalist like this, then you hear a nice song on the radio, and then you think, is this from a vegan or not a vegan? And that's like a step too far, I think. I mean, you can listen to music by non-vegan. You don't have to only listen to vegan music or to. So it's you limit yourself if everything or if the author that you like is a vegan or not. So. Yeah, the world is non-vegan, but you can also enjoy other people, and even non-vegans can be nice people, actually, and there can be people who are vegan and they're not nice, so the world is not so easy as it is. So, and then, that's what my lesson was, don't squeeze the world into easy, like good and bad. Now, I think that non-vegans are bad, in that sense, yes. Yes.
Also a bit related to that. So some vegans think we should try to make people go vegan.
Yes.
Others say like, okay, we start with reducing meat.
Yeah.
And, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I wonder how.
Yeah, that's also the thing. I don't look. There are two answers. The pragmatic answer is the stepping stone, but I'm a moral philosopher, and then I say you can only live ethical if you're at least a vegan. That's not a. So that's and I make. It's up to you if you share this metaphor, but imagine that you have. It is 200 years ago, and you live in the south of the United States, and you are a slaveholder, and you have 100 slaves. Then you read a treatise against slavery, and then you think, oh, you're convinced, and then you release 90 slaves, which is pretty good, but you keep 10 slaves. Should we compliment that person like, oh, you're a good slaveholder? That feels awful, right? Because that the moral baseline is to have no slaves at all. So that's why I hope that vegetarians are easily more convinced, and maybe they should also be helped because they think it's an obstacle in how to do it. What should I put on my sandwich, right? So we can help them with that and cook for them. But I do think maybe you need a stepping stone, but just as quickly as possible.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. That's it. Let's go. Time is strict. Sorry, kidding.
All right. So this is more of a philosophical question.
Good, nice.
So I was wondering, I got this information from Sounds of Life by Karan Bakker. I don't know if you read it.
Nope.
And so she says there's a lot of people like research using AI and technology to translate like animal voices in a way that we could understand. Maybe a bit similar as Leonie Kornips, I would say, does with cows. And there's even claims that in 10 years there could already be kind of like a Google Google Translate.
Okay.
Besides the fact that, like, you know, in a philosophical sense, if they can add meaning to what they say, but if there would be, if an application like that would be around, and we could like directly translate their suffering in kind of, you know, like, of course we know they're suffering because they're screaming, but you can maybe still like cognitively like claim it as well. But do you think that will change? If do you think that will make people more aware or more susceptible to change? If there's like an app that would like translate animals' voices in that way?
Well, that's, I don't know, because I hope, of course, I hope so, but. And maybe like, and then probably it will be like for 5 minutes. That's one of the things. But maybe that's one thing that I would like to. Okay, that's 1 minute. So I'm going to tell you something which is horrible. But usually we think about propaganda of something that is done in North Korea. But actually, the way that we have all been brought up is the same as in North Korea. And one of the things is we are being carnistically indoctrinated from very small onwards. And one of the most horrible institutions are children's farms. A children's farm, which is a farm where you can pet animals, but which is meant to normalize factory farming. Of course, it doesn't look like factory farming, but people think there you learn, oh, this is a cow and this is a... And then you think, okay, that's okay. So it's like, you think it's okay because you like it. And then, and all the horrible pictures are kept away from children. So that is how we are all being indoctrinated. So I also have students who have been looking at how animals are depicted in children's stories. But you don't see anything of the horrors of factory farming. So we are creating a myth, a horrible propaganda myth, also financed by the big lobby. And we now have a lobby in our second in Parliament. So that's probably more powerful than the voices of the not so voiceless anymore. Then I think that's basically we should fight also against. The lobby also, the big, and the education. Don't let our children be indoctrinated. That's a funny thing. Okay, one more. This is a personal story. I have 2 sons. They've been raised as vegan. Now they fall back to vegetarian, so I'm really disappointed, but they're adults, they're not mine. Okay, so that's my personal thing. When they were in school, in secondary school, they were to go to the dolphinarium. And then that was for me like a limit. Okay, so I wrote a letter to the school board that I was not okay with that. And the funny thing was, they had a very pragmatic solution. They said, well, due to some, I don't know, financial problem, we're not going this year. And they skipped it from the whole, so that's for them, okay, so that's really pragmatic. They didn't have to say, because if they would say okay, then other parents would complain. But now it's like, okay, they changed it. It has been changed since then, so it was really. So I screwed the outing for a lot of children, but for moral reasons. So this side story. Sorry for that.
No,
yeah.
I'm just clapping.
Clap. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.